Okay, so here it is. We finally wrapped up. I'm going to probably put these two segments out together at the same time. I had threatened you before with we're testing, but one of these days we're going to start shooting. And I thought, well, you know, in my mind I would shoot. I've got stuff all set up here. I've got a monitor so you can watch the shots in real time. I got this really cool shooting setup, but then I realized watching somebody shoot is dumb. It's boring. If somebody wants it, I'll turn the camera on. But here's just to go back again to what we've got going. These are some of the test guns that we've been ranting, I've been ranting, we've been talking about and discussing in the earlier videos. This is something you guys don't know anything about. This is another test piece that you don't know anything about. This is a test piece. It's got a pull down mechanism in here for tuning. It's got a deepened magazine. This takes big 375 cases and a huge tunable muzzle brake. This we've talked about a little bit. I haven't even shot it here yet to put any groups. This is another one. This one we've talked about the build earlier. This is a left-handed homemade stock. It's finally up and ready to test. Now these three we've shot in the last couple of days. And this one here is just another one that we're going to be testing. Now, the gun that I've got up in the window is, this is where we wrapped. This was my end of day. As you can see, it got dark. That's the outside. And I would have to walk 30 or 40 feet to hit the light switch to turn on my light. But it got ugly out there. I started shooting well before dark. And we're going to have to go through, what I did, instead of showing me shooting, I shot right up until it was getting dark. And now one of the things that happens around here, it's cold out there. We've got a cold front coming in. It's like, it might freeze tonight. I don't know. It's December 2nd. And I'm not saying it's going to freeze, but it's chilling. And it was a 60-degree day today. So it started to get blustery. What we're going to talk about today is groups. I got some weather reports. Shooting with no flags. And I shot until dark. I wrapped up. This gun is sitting here now, as you can see. This is the last build. This was a spur to the moment. I called Jim Borden for some reason, and he said he had BRMs that he could convert to a drop port. I've been wanting a drop port since Diller came out with them. There was a guy that had a carbon fiber drop port back in the day, the Snake that I was so... Anyway, I've been wanting one. Well, I got one. And I shot some groups with it tonight just because it was fun. I'm testing, let me be careful here. I'm not testing anything. I don't know how to test stuff. I got a cool Mark V HD loop-holed on here. Loop-holed Mark V HD glass. It's kind of kludgy, and it's first focal plane, so boom, I'm shooting on these. I mean, the whole dot is covered. This knob gets in the way, but this thing is fun to shoot. I ended up shooting 4 or 5 groups with it because it's fun. So this is sitting here. I've got the bore soaking. I shot 3 rounds, I cleaned it, and then I shot 2, 4, 6. We'll see when I turn around to the targets. I've got a full set of notes here. But I don't know if any of you will find this interesting or not. But I know that when I started spending money on guns, the biggest thing to me was to try to get information, try to get good information, try to not just build a huge equipment graveyard and buy a bunch of stupid stuff and jump to a bunch of conclusions based on things that I knew nothing about. And it happens, it really does. So hopefully somebody can find this useful because I'm testing some really, really cool kit here. So when you're going to build stuff, this way you won't be able to hands on it, but you'll be able to see it. So we tested this gun, we tested this gun, we tested this gun, we tested this gun, and we tested another one. I keep using the word tested. We didn't test Squiddle. But here's what we've got. Here, I'll just show you. I'm going to probably have too much clothes on to be able to stand here. I'm so stinking massive with all this crap on it. But it's cold out there. Maybe this will help. Anyway, I'll wad a bunch of that up. Just to show you what I do, I make these. The reason it's glittery and glinty is because I have a little laminating machine that I use for my business to laminate blueprints. So I print these out and I laminate them. And then, again, I'm a contractor, so I have endless blueprints. I go out, and in this case it happened to be laminated right here, but when I tore the target, I friggin' broke on this because it's broke. So what I do is I stick one of these on like that as an aiming point, and then I just walk my scope across. And we're going to start with this. We're going to start with the gun I've chosen to start calling the Thing. The Thing has a bench rest stock, which is right here. And I'm going to get this up where we can see it because this was the very first thing we tested. Now what you see is kind of kludgy and kind of cobby and kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But essentially this has got an aluminum block embedded in here. And I bedded this section from here to here. And it's well bedded. It's done right. This right here is correct. Single pull down screw. This is the front action screw pulling down on the front. Now, the first time I put this thing together, I had bedded back alongside this block, and this block is screwed to the block in the stock. This could be considered part of the stock, even though it's just a loading ram. But it was bedded tightly around here. So I had a section about from here to here, sucked down tight by that one screw. This back is just hogged out, carved out, it's just floating back here. So the whole gun is wobbling and rocking right here. Now remember all the talks that I've given about how Sammy Sosa hits the end of the gun and the flexing and the movement. I believe in that stuff. I believe that these things flex like a monkey. So I've got this bedded. I actually extended the bedding up here a ways. But this section right here is very, very well bedded. This was test number one. I decided to take this bench rest stock. See, I didn't even put action screws. I took a piece of metal and I bent this and I stuck it in here just so the trigger wouldn't hang up on my clothes. So, only bedded right here. Everything else floating and flopping and everywhere. This was my first test. I started this yesterday, 5 o'clock-ish. This right here is a staple hole. In fact, there was a staple hole right here to hold the paper down. I covered it with tape. Trust me, these are groups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, let me start here. I took 3 cases. And I took them out of my... They're all mismatched. There are 3 cases that I'm using because all I'm doing today, I'm not shooting, I'm not tuning, I'm not proving anything. All I'm doing today is proving concept. So I took some cases that are, one of them is 18 thou longer than the other one, 2 of them are similar, one of them is a thou thicker in the neck. These are setup cases. They have been fired. These 3 cases did these groups and about 6 more. Because I've got a whole, no, maybe they didn't do 6 more. I guess I did hang this piece and this piece. So this is probably all of them. But here's what I started. I took this stock right here. This is test number 1, just so you can know. Test to me now. This is not a scientific test. This is me saying, okay, if I bed a gun, float the tang, float the rest, and do all the rest of it is with good stuff, is this sufficient, just this bedding area, to stabilize a 6 ppc, which is not a big recoil impulse. To most of you guys, you're going to look at that little case and you're going to go, that ain't no recoil at all. I mean, that can't be much bigger than a Grendel case. I laugh as these trends come through. So anyway, this was test number 1. This was the first 3 shots through the barrel, and I was kind of excited. Now I'm going to get up so that you can see the shots. Might have to move up a little bit here and get to where you can actually see what's going on. Okay. So, this was yesterday. No wind flags. Now understand, I'm just out here banging. I'm testing concept. I am not tuning, I am not shooting. So, first 2 shots, this is what I expect to see something like this or better right off the rack. No tune, just a starting load. Now this was a very low starting load. Notice a thing, 6 ppc, 1 screw. That's this assembly right here. I started low. I started at 3150 on this just because I was going to work up. I had this whole thing in my head. I was going to work my way up hotter and hotter and see if it started to get ragged. I have a lot of dreams and a lot of plans that don't pan out. I started shooting. 2 went in the same hole. Okay, that's got over here. Group number 2. These are 3-shot groups now. Those 3 cases. That's all I use for this whole thing. That's that's raggedy. There shouldn't be any air in the group. I moved over to number 3, and I shot another similar group, and then I forgot. Remember, I'm aiming right here. And I have to remember to click over to that group and shoot. Click over to that group and shoot, and keep walking my way. I forgot to click. So there's extra shots in here. This is 2 groups, but still, look at the size of my finger. That's puke. That's Walmart SPS right there. And let me go on a little mini rant here. People, when you're seeing groups like this, I go on the inner tube and we got groups like that across the board. Somebody's got some custom built piece of something or another. These are 6mm bullet holes at 100 yards, and these are probably 1 inch. I don't know what they are. They're huge to me. They're retarded to me. Anyway, I see this line of groups, and I'll see people, I rate my groups. What do we got? I got a little vertical, I got a little this, I got a little of that. And people are, oh, that's a weather report, or that's, try this, or... No, this is a broken gun, guys. This is crap. Here's my group, bam, 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 bam. I'm not going to go through play by play. Suffice it to say that I got clear to here. I had only gone up a click or 5 in powder. The thing doesn't shoot. Just look at that mess. So here I do think logically sometimes. So I took this right here. I took this assembly and I pulled it out. And this is where I have thing 2. This is where it gets interesting. Remember, this barreled action, I'm throwing my cartridges. By the way, this is the ultimate bench rest setup on the planet. I throw the loads in from this side, left hand, bam, and they eject out this side. It's a left load. It's a right eject. And it has a manual ejector. No ding-in cases, no slapping, no... This thing is... So, I'm testing this concept. I took this action and I hacked it up and I made it so I could feed cartridges in and drop them in from the top. And it took only a little while to train for that. I'm throwing 6 PPCs over here and I dropped fewer of them than I did in the drop port, but we'll get to that. So, I have this assembly in its entirety in that stock. And it shot these groups. So, now comes thing 2 in EP. EP stands for extreme prejudice. I took this mess and I pulled it out and I screwed it into this stock, which it embedded. Here's thing 2. This is this concept, but an illegal stock. When I say illegal, this stock is set up for 600-yard competition shooting. That gun, as I was holding it in my hand, weighs about 14 or 15 pounds. So it's no good for PVC. But it doesn't matter. All I'm doing is bolting it together. I came over here, went bam, bam. And these are 3-shot groups. Now, some of you will say this group doesn't look any different than that group. But it does, because when I shot it, the first shot went here, and these 2 went here. And then I stepped over and shot here, and I said, okay, thing is fine. Now I can go test the pull down. Remember, this stock, I've got the main pull down screw, then I've got a recoil lug pull down screw, and then I've got a secondary recoil lug pull down screw. I'm gonna play with this. In the end, after this is all done, I'm gonna go back and bed the tang, I'm gonna put a pillar in here, we're gonna make this, and in the end, so that's the test that I had going there. I tested that assembly, that is an Atlas action. I put it into the Extreme Prejudice, it shoots fine. Boom, put it away. So now, I'm gonna have to start checking my notes here because I take assiduous notes. I'm going through page by page, thing, PPC, okay, terrible I wrote. Doesn't matter if you can read that or not. Terrible groups, fail. The one screw's a total fail. Cut the barrel, do, try seat. Here's the other thing. I wrote try seating depth and then I crossed it out because here's the, you don't mess with this, okay? That's broke. I have wasted thousands of hours of my life trying to tune crap like this. Play with seating depth. BS. You don't play with seating depths. You don't play with powder. You don't. These are just broke. If a gun shoots this bad right out of the box with the first thing you throw at it, it's broke. My big red, white, and blue gun is broke. So, I went up here, and boom, we're fine here. Understand, no flags. I'm just flying. Now we went to Gray Borden. The Gray Borden is a known gun. Here's Gray Borden. This gun is, I set a start, okay, I could go on. I threw an experimental barrel on there that I had turned steps in. I'm playing with a new chamber. This is a proven platform. This Gray Borden was built by Jim Borden, and it's a glued together freaking walking nightmare of a gun. It will win anywhere on the planet. I use it for a test platform. So, Gray Borden platform, threw on a barrel. My start load was 3,200 because I've learned through the years that I always start way low. I could start a load at 33 or 34 safely. But oddly enough, that right over here, that Borden BRM threw 100 feet per second more velocity. It is a long barrel. Anyway, I started this at 3,200. There's no, again, no, these things are jumping 30 thou. All I did was jam the bullet in the case. I hadn't even set out to the lands yet. Boom, done. That's all I shot. That's it for the Gray Borden. That's tunable. Fine. Okay. Went over to the Nuvo. I've been talking about the Nuvo. I started down here. The Nuvo is a build that I started a year ago on YouTube, and then work and COVID and all this crap going around. I documented the Nuvo. This is the first time I've shot it. This is a barrel. No, it's not the first time I shot it because I shot it with nutted assemblies and it was total crap. So this is a weird barrel where I've taken a nutted assembly, glued it on, torqued it up. Starting load, I did 3 rounds, and then I remembered that I'd forgotten to tighten the screws in the stock. So I went through and I tightened them up. And I shot the next group, which is right here. This is 2 separate groups. There's 3 rounds right here, 3 rounds, and that's showing there's 3 rounds above my finger. This is 3 rounds. This is a weather report. This is shooting in a blustery evening with no flags. Then I decided, okay, I had started this one a little low. For some reason, this same load, when I switched to this gun, was only reading 3150. So I bumped it up a little bit to 3,200. Bam. This gun, done. Concept tested, ready to go out and tune and shoot and whatever. So, we've gone from a totally broken to taking the same thing, putting it in a good stock, fixed. That's ready to move forward and spend time on. Went to a Gray Borden, testing something that I've never even told you guys about, which is an experimental barrel setup and a different reamer. But again, a 6 PPC, everything the same, known platform, done. This one, loose screws, but in the end, I don't know that the screws made any different. As I said, blustery, no. This one I paid a little more attention. I watched the trees. Ooh, I'm really, boom, done, put this away. Now I moved up to my Borden, and this is a BRM. drop port. And let me tell you guys, when there's somebody on the internet talking about a weather report, this is what a weather report looks like. This is a good gun, shooting in blustery conditions with no flags, just playing. All I'm doing here is, what I'm looking for is a water table. What I'm looking for is nothing goofy. This is the very first shot out of that Borden BRM dropper with a shilling barrel, uncut, untrimmed, you saw it, the thing is just cobbled together. I went on, this is #1 shot. I wrote this just when after I hung these. New bore. And then all the way across here is shots. This is another of those double groups. Those of you who look close will see that there's a hole, and a hole, but there's middle holes up and down. Well, this is 2 groups because I forgot to move I forgot to click the scope over. That gun, boom, done. I shot more groups only because it was fun. And then it got freaking dark and it got really bumpy and everything ground to a halt, and that's where I sit right now. But I'm excited because I've got 4 guns that are working great. I got this gun to work great, and my first test shows that bedding a stock, single screw, does not hold. So, we're at the end of this segment. I threw a lot of crap in there. Let's hope some of it sticks or some of it makes sense.